Hello! Today we're going to see the answer to this question, that is, what is a radian? And let me tell you that many people know how to measure angles using degrees because since we start working in math and geometry, we use a protractor, and the protractor is in degrees. And this special unit measure of angles is the radian, and it's pretty useful for math and also for physics, because in physics most of the relationships we have in circular motion is related with angles in radians, not in degrees. Just because one thing, and let me tell you the first fact we have about the unit measure radians. Okay, the radian is a unit measure for angles, and there is something pretty cool. You can put the unit measure or take off the unit measure anytime you would like. This is calling a dimensional. So the radian is a dimensional. We're going to see why it's a dimensional in a few minutes, but this is the main idea. Okay, and this is the way we're going to see what is a radian and how to determine the radian in terms of degrees, to know the conversion, the unit the unit rate to pass from radians to degrees. So we're going to start talking about a circle. This is our circle, you can see it here, and imagine that this is the center of the circle. Okay, let me put here a point that is the center of the circle, and everybody could know here that if I draw an angle of 360 degrees, what I'm doing is to have one turn. But let's imagine that you do the arc of 360 degrees, means the circumference of the circle. And this is pretty important because the circumference of a circle is, I think that everybody know it here, but the circumference or the perimeter of the circle is 2 pi r. Okay, so this is the arc of a of a 360 degrees or the perimeter of the circle. So let me show you here. We're going to do like angle, going to do a table angle. Okay, let's use ruler, because usually teacher says that students should use ruler in the classroom, so I'm gonna use it here. Okay, so I'm going to build a table that says the angle and the length of the arc. The length of the arc. Okay, so you can know that the length of the arc, if you have a 360 degrees angle, is going to be 2 pi r. Okay, let me use s as the length of the arc. But what happens if I don't take 360? What happens if I choose an angle of 180 degrees? What's gonna happen? That I choose half of the circle, right? So if I choose half of the circle, what is gonna happen to the length of the arc is just something so simple, and is that this arc is pi r. Okay, now let's imagine another value. Let's imagine that the value we choose it's 90 degrees. So let's imagine that now I choose 90 degrees. So the arc the arc is a quarter of the circle. So what we can do on our table is just 90 degrees equal pi halves is a quarter times r. Okay, so let me do it like a step by step. 2 pi r, the whole circumference, divided by 4, so pi r halves. Okay, and now we don't need to be geniuses to understand that what's gonna happen if I divide the circumference in another term, like for example 45 degrees. So 45 degrees will be an eighth, and in this case will be pi quarters of r. Okay, let's see another value. For example, 30 degrees. What happened to 30 degrees? If you divide the circumference, so the length of the arc, 30 degrees, that is here. So 30 degrees, what we're doing is dividing the circumference in 360 degrees divided 30. So we're divided in 12 parts. Okay, so the length of the arc is just a 12th of 2 pi r. So 2 pi r divided 12 is just going to be pi sixth of r. Okay, so now as you can notice, every dimension of the length of the arc for these angles is related with a multiple of pi and times the radius. So we have a number multiplied by pi times the radius. Okay? And that's pretty nice, because what we can see is that the length of the arc is just an angle times the radius. This measure that is here depends on the angle directly. So there is no possible way that we have two different angles with the same answer. So what does it mean? That the thing is that we have the arc equals an angle times r, but this angle has a special fact. The special fact is that it has no dimensions, because s is measured in dimensions of length and r is measuring dimensions of length as well. So if I measure radius in centimeters, the arc will be in centimeters. That's the unit of the radian. So what we're expressing here, the things that I circle in red, is just the angles that we have in the left side of the table, but in radians. Okay? So this is angles in radians. So this is how we can determine what is a radian in terms of degrees, and every time we have a situation, it is better to use radians because it's not a unit, it's a dimensional, and as it has no dimensions, you can have no problem to multiply in many situations. Okay? That's the cool fact of the radians. Now let's see how to get the unit rate or the conversion to degrees. As we can see here, when we have 360, so the unit in radians is 2 pi, and 180, So the unit in radians is pi. So it means that when we have 180 degrees, is the same as pi radians. Okay? And this is the unit conversion between degrees and radians. Any angle could be converted using this unit rate. So for example, let's say that somebody tell you, hey, tell me 75 degrees in radians. So what I have to do is just to multiply by pi radians and divide by 180 degrees and simplify. Okay? Simplify. So the degrees are off. This has a third part. So the third part of 7 is 2. The third part of 15 is 5. The third part of 180 is 60. I can get the fifth part, that is 5 here. And here the fifth part is 12. So to sum up, for example, 75 degrees becomes 5/12 of pi radians. And somebody can ask me right now, like, but teacher, you start saying what is a radian? So you have to say what is a radian, 1 radian. And we have to know what is 1 radian in degrees. So we have to convert it by multiplying by 180 degrees over pi radians. So what we can do is to simplify, but it's not needed to simplify because it's a dimensional. And the thing is that 1 radian is 180 degrees over pi. Okay? So I will tell you that please find this as a decimal and tell me in your comments what is as a decimal. Okay? And this is a radian. This is how to get a radian. We just made a table using the circle and getting the perimeter of the circle and the length of the arc to transform angles in degrees to radians. Okay? I hope that you understand what is a radian. I hope that you have many comments to tell me that if you enjoy this video, please give me some likes and subscribe to my YouTube or follow me on my social network as Hugo Film with many materials. And yes, my dear students of 9th grade told me, teacher, tell something of us in the video. So hello, dear students of 9th grade, I love you so much. So see you, goodbye, and have a nice day. I'm waiting for any comment for you, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.